Welcome back to the Bourbon Note, your one-stop YouTube shop for bourbon reviews, bourbon hunting, live streams, and all kinds of fun stuff. I'm Ben. Here's my list of bottles I'm looking for this summer. Let's get into it. So I said bottles I'm looking for this summer, and really, I've kind of been looking for these bottles all year because some of them actually did get released earlier this year, but I'm still on the hunt for them here in July. I haven't had any luck quite yet. So I just want to kind of hop on here, do something a little bit different than the standard review video. There's plenty of those to come in the future, but just to kind of shake things up a little bit, get your opinions on maybe bottles that I'm leaving off of this list, things that you're looking for, and maybe some of these that you would or wouldn't recommend that I am looking for on this list. So let's get into it. First off, and one little disclosure here, I'm not putting anything too crazy on this list. I'm not putting like BTAC on the list or, Pappy's or, even like Russell's 13. I'm obviously always gonna wanna get a hold of those kind of bottles if I can. This is more of like a realistic list of things that I actually have a fighting chance of just finding in the wild, possibly for MSRP. So getting into it in no particular order, bottle number one, I'm looking for the old Fitzgerald 7-year bottled in bond. I know there's kind of been some mixed reviews as to whether this thing's worth it. Runs about 60 to 70, I think, dollars. And, it's supposed to be a regular shelfer, a new product from Heaven Hill. It's the Wheated Mash Bill, obviously from the old Fitzgerald line, just a 7-year versus the other age-stated decanter products that they have. And yeah, I want to get a hold of this one just because I'm curious to see what it's like. I've heard some really good things, heard some mediocre things. But, being a bourbon enthusiast, first and foremost, but then also having the channel, I'm always going to be looking for these new ones that come out, see if it maybe ends up being a regular shelfer for me, because sometimes I really like these ones that people are kind of lukewarm on. So, speaking of liking ones that people are lukewarm on, the last time this line of bourbons came out with a, kind of like an allocated or limited release product, I really liked it. Some people were kind of hit and miss on it. That was the old Grandad 16-year. Well, now I'm looking for the old Grandad 7-year bottled in bond. Supposed to be coming out, I think, this month. I think it's just coming out in July here. So I might have a hope and a prayer of getting a hold of one of those sooner than later, because I don't think they're going to fly off the shelves like the old Fitz. The old Fitz is, again, supposed to be a regular shelfer, but, anytime a new product comes out, people kind of go nuts, and they tend to, scoop them up off the shelves as fast as they can, so hoping that dies down. With the OGD 7-year, I don't think I'm going to have a problem finding that once it hits Minnesota. I think that one's supposed to run about $40 to $45, 7-year age stated, bottled in bond. I'm an old Grandad fan, and so definitely looking forward to that for various purposes on the channel. I mean, my first two ones here are both 7-year bottled in bond products, so you can kind of see, that maybe, do a little side-by-side comparison or a blind flight or something like that. So anyway, OGD 7-year bottled in bond. Next on the list, the Maker's Mark Starhill Farm Wheat Whiskey release. So this one is supposed to run about $100. This one's gonna be a little harder to find, I think. I have seen it showing up on shelves in posts from different places around the country. I don't know if I've seen anybody post anything about it in Minnesota yet. I feel like this one is definitely going to be a little more on the allocated side, but it still does kind of seem like it might be attainable. I don't think it's quite as allocated as like a, a cellar aged, which is definitely one I would be looking for, but I kind of, consider that one to be in that higher tier of allocation where I just, I don't think I'm going to see that in the wild. But I'm hoping to see the Starhill Farms. I've heard good things about it. Being a Maker's Mark fan, I'm really interested in trying their just standard wheat whiskey. From what I understand, I think it's a barely legal wheat whiskey. It's only like 51% wheat, but that's still a higher wheat percentage than their bourbon. So I'm interested in that for sure. Next on the list is been out for a little while now, and that's the Bombberers PFG. And I don't know what the PFG stands for. Precision Fine Grain, I think. I'm a fan of Bombberers. The couple that I've had I really liked. I think this one runs around $120. If I saw it in the wild, I would pay that for it, because the last Bombberers bottle I bought, I was a big fan of. I had had a pour of Bombberers before that at a bar. I was a big fan of that, so I'm just super into that brand. There's also one coming out called Declarations that I just honestly learned about when I was looking up information for this video. I have no idea what it is, but if it's got Bombberers on it and it's around that standard MSRP price, I'm probably gonna buy it. So next on the list has been out for a while now. I think I missed getting this at the store by like a half hour one day, and that's the Jack Daniel's 14. I think that one runs like 150 bucks. I'm not thrilled about the price on that, but you know, it is a 14-year age-stated whiskey. Limited release. I was able to score the 10 and the 12 year. There was a Total Wine, Total Wine's actually around the Twin Cities metro area, kind of had big drops of the Jack Daniel's 10, 12, and 14. Unfortunately, I missed the 14. But, still holding out hope that maybe there's some sitting in a warehouse someplace that'll show up on the shelves, because, that stuff does happen from time to time. But I am super interested in getting a hold of that, or at least trying it, because, being a big fan of the 10-year and the 12-year, definitely want to see what that 14-year is all about. So, sort of on this last one is a bit of an honorable mention, depending on the price, because I've heard varying price points on this one, but I am very interested in the Knob Creek 21-year. And I know a lot of people think that this is just going to be an over-oaked, experiment gone wrong. I know not everyone was a fan of the 18-year. I have never had the 18-year. It's for sale at a local liquor store for like 210 bucks. I just can't bring myself to pay $210 for it. But, I'll keep hunting around for it, see if I can find it at a lower price, because I'm a big fan of Knob Creek products in general. And so the 21-year definitely intrigues me. Just a 21-year bourbon intrigues me. Did I say Jack Daniel's just now? I meant Knob Creek. I don't know. I guess, well, you watching this, you'll know what I said. But all of a sudden in my head, it popped in that I feel like I said Jack Daniel's 21 instead of Knob Creek. Maybe I didn't. Anyway, Knob Creek, 21-year. Yeah, just a 21-year bourbon in general is intriguing to me. And so around maybe the 200, a little bit north of that, I would probably pay for it. But I have seen some, things that are saying it's closer to $300 MSRP. At that point, I'm probably out on it. I don't think I'd pay that much for it. But, it is something that I'm looking to get a hold of, or at least hopefully have a pour of at a bar and get to experience that 21-year Knob Creek. That one's getting bottled at 100 proof as well, like the standard Knob Creek lineups. So anyway, that's just a handful of the bottles I'm currently, as we speak, actively looking for. Again, there's plenty more bottles that I would love to get my hands on that I will definitely purchase if I see them in the wild, but I don't know. It's not really fun to make a list of things that damn well you're just never going to see out there. So, for me, I think that bourbon hunting doesn't really mean the same thing that it used to a few years ago. I think a few years ago when I first got into it, bourbon hunting was more about trying to see if you could score something allocated, or some, generally it was mostly Buffalo Trace products at that point. Because you had at least a shot at maybe seeing one here and there. I kind of got into the game just when that started to die out. When I first got into it, you'd see them occasionally, but it was very shortly after I got into kind of collecting and hunting bourbon that all just dried up and they no longer were showing up on shelves. So for me, bourbon hunting is more finding cool new brands that I've never heard of before. I just reviewed that Debonair. That's a really good whiskey, actually. Brand I'd never heard of before. And so, finding something like that was cheap and enjoyable is, that's kind of like a bourbon hunting score for me. But also finding some of these newer products that are available enough that you might be able to get a hold of one. So anyway, let me know what you guys think. I mean, and to be honest, with bourbon hunting now, I'm starting to see some of those more rare allocated products becoming a little more available. So I think we're coming back around to where maybe bourbon hunting may include looking for, even like a Stag Junior or a Weller Antique 107 or, like the Jack Daniel's limited releases or something like that. So I think we're maybe coming back around on that a little bit. But, for this list, I just wanted to include the ones that, most of you can probably go out in the store and find if you do a little hunting. So let me know if these have been available in your area, if you've had them, if you like them. Are they worth hunting? And what am I missing from my list of available whiskeys that I should be on the lookout for? Let me know in the comments. While you're at it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. This has been my whiskeys I'm looking for currently this summer on the Bourbon Note. I'm Ben. We'll see you on the next one.